Oh, writers are unhappy, tortured souls who must bleed onto the page. Hey guys, I'm Kate. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be reacting to some common stereotypes about writers. I asked y'all over on Instagram to let me know which stereotypes in particular just really grind your gears. And no surprise, there were some frequent standouts, but also some random ones that I hadn't thought about. So before we get started, I do want to make a quick note how I'm always amused by the depiction of writers in media, particularly TV and movies, especially those characters that tend to fit into these stereotypes, because it's like, we did this to ourselves, you know? Who do we think wrote this character but other writers? Now, were they doing it to match audience expectations? Like, what kind of weird chicken or egg situation are we dealing with here? Also, if you do want to chat about this more, Jessica and I are hosting our monthly authortube chat over on her channel tomorrow, Sunday. I will leave the link down below to that, so please do come chat with us about these writer stereotypes. Yeah, so without further ado, let's start with a biggie that I got frequently. Writers have no social skills, they're loners, we have no friends, we're hermits, we're stuck up, we're antisocial. As with all things, some people fit into this, but I think it's such a small category, especially because if you think about it, writers are fascinated by humans. Now, you don't have to like something to be fascinated by it, but I think that's why a lot of us flock to things like authortube or like writer Instagram or, you know, wherever else, Twitter, because we do want to connect with other people, maybe just in a little bit of different confines. Another common one was that writers are alcoholics. Thank you, Hemingway. To be fair, my good friend Brooke and I play off of the write drunk, edit sober thing. It is a lot of fun. Also, we're not alcoholics. There's so few writers I know that actually have like a crutch thing. If anything, maybe a lot of them have a particular way they like their desk to look, or maybe write in a particular notebook, but not really using like drugs to get anything going. Or maybe I'm not hanging with the right writers. What do I know? I like nail biters, which are all writers nail biters? Probably not, but this girl, that's why I have to paint my nails. So I fit into this stereotype. This one I thought was particularly interesting because there's like a foil to it. First off, that writing is just a hobby. I think a lot of us have had experience not feeling comfortable saying that we're a writer because of the kind of stigma attached to like writing is, someone said lazy, like that it's not hard work, or that it can't be anything more than a hobby. Sometimes it is just a hobby, sometimes it's actually work, which was the other side of this. You'll never make any money from this, you're a bum, how are you going to feed yourself? These are valid questions people need to consider when getting into the arts, and there's like a whole aside that we could have debating how, you know, people love to consume art in the form of music and movies and TV shows and books and like all sorts of things, but don't always really like to pay for that art. But we don't all expect to get rich quick from this, or rich at all from this. For most of us, that is a very lofty, lofty dream. Oh, this one gets me so mad. Lots of people thinking that it's so easy to write a book and that it's so easy, you get it right the first time, that it only takes like a few months and then you're done, you don't have to revise. As someone who is currently in the midst of so many revisions, the follow-up to this is people asking you if you would write their great idea for them, because clearly the idea is the hard part. Oh, writers are unhappy, tortured souls who must bleed onto the page. So I'm doing some research into N.K. Jemisin right now to do an I Tried Writing Like video on her, and she said that too. Like, not all writers are tortured artists. We have, again, I'm just thinking of all the movies and TV shows where the writer was like, no one understands me. My work is my life. Like, it's just me and my typewriter and meh. I'm not saying a lot of writers don't use their writing to kind of work through emotional trauma or their own thoughts or whatever, but also like, can we tone it down a little? Oh, someone said that because they are female, a lot of people think that they write romance. We could do a whole separate thing on this for particular genres and stereotypes associated with the writers and readers of those, but that's always a bummer when people just assume something about you just because of your gender. Now this one is true. People making jokes about what my browser history must be like. Yes, this is a common joke I like to make with other writers because truly we Google the craziest things. Lots of things about dead bodies, lots of questions on how weapons work, but then lots of historical questions. Potentially some like science fiction-esque, like a writer's search history is a mystery. That we stay up late, don't get any sleep, and that we're sort of manic. I think this once again goes into, I'm actually thinking specifically of movies where they have like the montage bits of the writers like madly typing and like the throwing of pages and the like head desking. Whose fault is this? It's our fault that we're all grammar Nazis or good at spelling. That, my dear friends, is why we have spell checkers nowadays. It's also why we have editors. And yes, I will say I, for one, do tend to be a good speller, and I'm a somewhat of a stickler for it, not necessarily in the first draft, but like any kind of message I'm typing to other people, I really try to spell things right, to the point where I will like put an asterisk in a follow-up message if I spelled it wrong, or if I use the wrong version of there. I'm fine. That we are all addicted to coffee. I shouldn't be the one to talk about this because it's true for me. Oh, I like the very interesting subsection of writers. Novelists are dreamy, while journalists are career focused and professional. So this could almost go back into the making money aspect as well, where people once again have different ideas associated with what a writer is, which I guess is what stereotypes are all about. But people think the only way you can be making money is if you're writing nonfiction or selling articles, doing freelance work, which are great ways to make money from your writing when maybe your fiction work is more niche. But of course, the publishing industry is vast and large. I do think that novelists, maybe not dreamy, like if you meet them in person, they're dreamy or like head in the clouds all the time, but I think it does take something to decide you want to write a novel, stick with it long enough, and have imagined these characters and sometimes just a different world. Like, I'm curious if any novelist wouldn't describe themselves in some capacity as dreamy. I tend to think of myself as realistic, but certainly in regards to my work, dreamy could be right. Anyways, like, we don't all have cats. I love my pepperoni. I love my pepperoni too, though I will admit, I do kind of want to get a cat at some point. A black cat. And finally, I think we will end off with this one, that you live to just read and write and have no other hobbies or passions. Because writer at this point has become more than just like someone who's a hobbyist or like your profession. It has now become an identity. And I think it's interesting because I definitely in some ways do feel this way. I do feel like I am a writer, and while that doesn't define me, it certainly takes up so much of my time. And I can compare that in a completely different way than when I was working in the corporate world, where I didn't feel like my work was tied to my identity in any way, though people certainly do attempt to put that pressure on other people too. Kind of like with doctors. We imagine doctors as a like one size fits all. When you meet a doctor, it's a doctor. I don't know. Where was I going with this? And of course, as writers, we do love to read, but lots of us have different hobbies. I cannot tell you the number of people who have talked to me about crocheting, or like Becca makes bags, or my friends who like to sing, or I like working out now, which is shocking. I am also a runner, and while I don't quite feel that is an identity yet, slowly, eventually I might. That's a whole other question. When does something become part of your identity? Which is not the point of this video. Anyways, please do comment down below. Let me know what some writing stereotypes are that you personally hate, that you hate. I think the big one that I hate, it is this idea of the like manic, hyper-focused, will ignore anyone and everything else. While they're on deadline, like nothing else exists. And while there certainly is a pressure to deadlines, it's not like that. Certainly not, as someone said, about like being narcissistic. We're not to that point. Calm down, Hollywood. How dare you do this to us, fellow writers. And then of course, please do also let me know the ones that you fit in with. Nail biting, and certainly the coffee consumption. Guilty as charged. Do I like to sit in cafes with my latte art and write and observe the people? Like, am I that quintessential cafe writer? Yes. Yes, I am. And again, Jessica and I will be chatting about this more in depth tomorrow, so please do come visit us then. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all very soon with a new video. Bye. That was a lot of emphasis on very, so very soon. Although I guess it is very soon because tomorrow I'm doing a live stream. Tomorrow, your tomorrow. If you watch this when I put it up. Okay, bye. About how I'm always amused by the... Grab my phone up.